Save it, save it. Hello, hi everyone. I'm here with the very friendly Caspar Francis, and Sembang Kreatif episode 2 is now live. Okay, hi, hello everyone.
Hey.
Hello, Caspar.
Hello. Very nice
You
to
are
be
very
here.
friendly, right?
I hope so. I mean,
Okay.
if you're referencing me to the ghost, maybe
We'll
think
skip that.
about
We'll
it.
skip that. My bad. My bad. I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times, a million times, man. Okay. But welcome everybody. We're here for Sembang Kreatif episode 2, like I mentioned, and we are here with the awesome Caspar Francis from Rawspark. Welcome,
Thank you
dude.
very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's get things going, man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just throw a very simple question. Let's do a little bit of a warm up question.
yeah,
Because we're talking about Sembang Creative, right? We're just
yeah,
chatting. We're gonna be chill. We're gonna be sharing lots of stuff. So
yeah.
let's start with a little bit of an origin story. You know how all these MCU movies and DCU movies, they love these
Oh
origin
yeah,
stories, right? So
yeah.
what is the origin of Caspar Francis, a CEO, rule breaker, creative director? How did you get inspired to be a creative?
Wow. Well, it goes way back to, I think, back to when I was 12 or 13. Actually, when I was a kid, really. Like, I've always been into music. Music was
Okay.
always the thing, and I always loved film as well, right? Like music and film were the two things that always surrounded me. As a kid, I remember as a 5-year-old kid, I was exposed to so much film. I was exposed to so much music. I love the greats like Queen and
Okay.
Metallica, and that was since young. I've always loved 80s pop culture, 90s pop culture, a lot of the cult classics as well. It started really
That's
from
not your
there.
generation, right? That's
No,
before
it's not
you,
right.
right?
Yeah, that's really before me, but I think I was exposed to it. You could blame my parents for that, I think.
Okay.
There
Everybody
was a
blames
lot.
their parents for something. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
okay.
I blame them. They've really brought up a rule breaker as well.
Right.
Look, it started from there, and then when I got into 12, when I was 12 years old, of course, got into secondary school. After secondary school, I decided I really wanted to do a job in the creative line. Like I wanted to be a rock star, like from the very start. So I enrolled in the music college. I took up music, but then when I went into music, there was a film elective, right? And of course, I love
Mm.
film. And immediately when there was that, I took that opportunity. And then I became well versed and I became good in film and music. And that was and when I wanted to go out to the job, I knew that I wanted to do two of those things, right? Two of those
Right.
things within their career spectrum. So of course, got out of that, got out, with film and music knowledge. Went into the working world, started off in a couple of agencies, started off with a couple of TV studios as well. And I wanted to always do a little bit more, right? And at the same time, I wanted to do film and music, and I wanted to make a career out of it. But as you know, being in Asia, it's a little bit hard, right? To tell your parents you want to do music and you want to do film. So the most corporate way of being able to do film and music, or the most corporate outlet I could get out of that was advertising. So that was how I got into the whole creative realm, right? Advertising, working in agencies for about like 7 to 8 years. Fast forward, and right now I'm now in Rawspark. Founded my own agency, built a team, and thought I just put all of these ideas, into practice. And then, being in advertising, you're almost in almost every industry, right? You're
Mhm.
always, as a creative, you got to be resourceful and you got to think beyond what you know. So, I started, going to things like coding, going to things like
All right.
VR and XR as well, and just really just adding that to the repertoire, right? Just adding that to your creative repertoire. And at the end of the day, if people ask me what I am, I just tell them I'm a storyteller, right? I
Okay.
just
All
happen to
right.
work in advertising, so I don't know
Can,
if
can,
that's enough of an MCU film. It's not an MCU film, but I think
can I just backtrack a little bit?
yeah.
Was there any moment in growing up where you had to go through the typical agents thing of lawyer, accountant, engineer? No, did you have to go through that?
A little bit, right? Like
A
I
little
won't
bit.
lie. Yeah, a little bit. Like, you do get resistance from friends and family sometimes, right?
Okay. Right.
Whether it's out of good intention. I believe it's always out of good intention, right? And really, it going into a creative industry, it is exploring worlds abound, right? It's you're going into a different world altogether, and there's definitely that fear. But I think, I don't know. I guess I rule breaked my way out.
But dude, you're Singaporeans. Singaporeans
Yeah.
don't break the rules. Where did that come from?
Well, I think it started from young, really. When I was in school, I mean, I didn't like school, right?
Okay.
Not because of regimentation, but because it to an extent, there was a structure to learn. But really, the truth about learning was, is failure is a good teacher.
Mm.
Taking
Okay.
risks is a good
Pause for
teacher.
the any below 18-year-olds there. Please go to school, even though you don't like it. All right. Just a bit of a disclaimer. We don't want to get cancelled.
To be fair, when I got out, like, I tell you, school's still important. Like
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
it still is important. And I think the most important answer to that is really perspective. Like, it's
Mm,
always good to learn, and it's also good to as much learn outside,
mm.
right?
I'm just gonna add on a little bit more to this origin story because I
Yeah,
recall you actually did a degree in creative management. So you're
yes,
actually
I
damn
did.
qualified for this. It's not just you stumble onto it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you actually studied to do creative management. Tell us,
yes, I
is there
did.
anything that you learned that you actually apply now from your degree?
Actually, I do. Actually, I do.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. Tell us.
Yeah,
Tell us.
yeah. Well, in creative management, we did a lot of things that we didn't like to do, which was called AKA writing.
Mhm,
I don't know how
mhm,
many essays I had to write. I don't know how many theses I had to write in my time when I was in university. But to be fair and to be honest, I think writing is the most important skill ever being a
okay.
creative, because you can be a filmographer, you can be a videographer, you can be a cinematographer, you can be a musician, you can be a designer, you can be an animator. But at the end of the day, those are just languages, right? Like, at
All
the
right.
end of the day, being able to express yourself is the most important thing as a creative. So, which is why writing is the medium to be able to express yourself. And if you can't, my belief is that if you can't be a great writer, you can be a great creative. And whatever language or whatever medium you take, it's gonna fly. You know?
I'm just going to add on to that because I totally,
Yeah.
totally, totally agree with that in the
Yeah.
sense that to be a storyteller,
Yeah.
which is kind of how I grew up as well because I was like the nerd in the library, etc., etc. But stories kind of transport you to a different place, and as a creative, that's what you're doing. You're transporting people
Yeah.
to a different place,
Yeah.
a different experience, whatever it
Yeah.
is. But if you don't, I mean, the ability to write comes with the amount of input that you take in. So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
so so this is going to lead to my next question because whether you're into movies, whether you're into music, whether you like graffiti artists or whether you like 3D art, whatever it is, you need to be consuming a lots and lots of creative input
Yeah.
all the time, 24/7, right? So
Yeah.
tell us, give us maybe one or even two creative sources of inspiration that you always like kind of wake up every day and kind of okay, I gotta check this out, I gotta have a look at this or have a look at that. Anything
Right.
that you can share with our audience?
Yeah. I'm gonna break it down into 3 points, right?
All right,
Like
cool.
the first is influence, I would say. And it starts really from young. Like, I've
Hmm.
always loved music. I've always loved film. I've always loved 80s pop culture and 90s pop culture. That has always been, the inspiration. That's always been the influence.
Okay, I'm gonna ask
And
you to name which one is the biggest 80s thing that you because now 80s is coming
yeah,
back.
so
So
everybody knows I'm a big Star Wars fan.
all
Everybody
right, all
knows
right.
I love Back to the Future. I
Okay.
love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I loved, Mary Poppins. A lot of influences, right,
Mm-hmm.
from the cult classics. And what I love about them is really the beauty of, the creativity behind it, the ability to be able to not just create good stories, but to almost create like an entire whole world, like a whole
Yep.
universe.
Mm-hmm.
You would never imagine, like, Star Wars, like the amount of detail that actually goes into it. It's not just a film. it's really an entire world, right? It's got planets, it's got it's got species of aliens and people,
Exactly.
and there's so much in imagination, and really I realize so much of that, like to the point I do whenever it's client pitches and proposals, I would just take inspiration and take imagination from those, really. So that's the first, I would say.
What, you're telling me you're force choking a client or what?
Oh no Veda antics, definitely. I mean, Veda's my favorite character, but no Veda antics, I promise you. It's all imagination and really about how to build worlds, right? It's not just building stories. That's the first.
All right. Building worlds, eh?
Yeah, building walls and just thinking and just being imaginative, right? That's kind of like what I fall back on all the time. The second I would say is really perspective, right? Like I think it's a skill to be able to or it's a good skill rather for a creative to look at the world in a different way, right? Of how kind of people usually where you see it, right? Like I'll give you an example. Like a couple of weeks ago, me and my fiance were off to shop for ceramic pottery, for example, in a shop, and we were looking for a wedding gift, right? We saw a whole circle of vases and pots, that were lined up in a circle. I immediately thought, oh wow, that's a very good display. Well, I was thinking in my head that was the scene from Aliens, the movie starring Sigourney Weaver. So, it's about looking at things from a different way. Whales don't swim in the sea; they fly in the sky, for example.
Yes.
And cars belong in the sea. So it's really a matter of perspective, like the possibility of being able to take that, and that perspective again comes from that imagination. I would say.
But I see that you have you're employing a kind of mashup technique here. You kind of combine things from different worlds. So you're saying whale in the sky, but car in the sea. So is that something that is kind of a go-to tip for you?
A little bit. It's more of the look. It's a little bit more perspective, right? Like looking at things differently from how people will look at. It's about having different opinions as well. Like having that, right? And that's, I would say, that's the second point. And the third I would say is being unfamiliar with a certain medium or with a certain space. Like I think that is another third point of what drives creativity or what inspires creativity. A lot of times we learn because we apply our own experiences to solve a problem that is outside of what we can originally solve, right? And just being open to that world. That's another way of really just being creative. I'll give you an example. Like, a lot of times what we do in our company is we get musicians to think of music video ideas to create an ad, for example. And you wouldn't expect a musician to know so much about marketing, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, they can bring their twist to an ad. And the result of that is that sometimes, you get something that's way different from what's produced outside. And then as a strategist, I can come in and think and go, right, so you've come up with a nice jingle, you've come up with a nice music video. How do we take this and then now let's fit it to the objectives of the client? So a lot of times we think backwards, in a good way, or we think the opposite way in a good way. Rule breaking essentially is that. Like,
so that's the first way that you're breaking the rules. Get a non-expert to be to either start the process or be involved in the process.
Let's be fair. Get the person who's the least familiar in that space.
Right.
Give the chance at problem solving. At the end of the day, as a creative, you're a problem solver, right?
Okay.
You look at solving problems. The idea is to come up with a solution to the problem. At the end of the day, there's that objective. Any idea can be used to solve that, right? And
can I just ask, in terms of how long Rawspark has been around? How long has it been?
Since 2018. So it's been
about
4 years.
Half of it, the freaking pandemic. There you go. So, what would you say is the appetite for the type of clients that you're going for this kind of rule-breaking, marketing activities or marketing campaigns?
Right.
How is it?
Well, I think people are starting to see, the effects of rule-breaking marketing, right? Like at the end of the day, I would always say like advertising is legal vandalism, and the medium of it is art, right? And at the end of the day, it's about attracting the most awareness, attracting the most eyeballs, and then the best one gets the most conversations. It's always about that, right? So at the end of the day, what we always try to do is, when we're looking out for clients or when clients are looking out for us, it always begins from that approach, right? How are they looking to do things that are different? They're either looking out for new ideas, or they're looking out for new formats, or they're looking out for new ways of delivery, right? So it usually starts from there, and that's really the appetite. And you see a growing trend. Like you see a growing trend. It starts off usually from technology. A lot of people are looking out to new technologies,
Okay.
to try to market as mediums. But what they don't know is that technology is just a tool. At the end of the day, you need content, you need storytelling. That's the core. VR and AR just tends to be your medium. It's your blank canvas, right? So we start to see a lot of that, right, coming in, especially in the COVID-19 pandemic. You start to see a lot of brands start to take that step forward and trying things that are a little bit different. But the next thing is storytelling, storytelling in that particular medium. Yeah.
So in a way, what you're saying is that the core part of it is still the same. You're not rewriting the rules in that sense, but you're rewriting the rules in how the storytelling is being done.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah.
All right.
In the delivery of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe I'm just being a little bit judgmental, but the stereotype, of course, is for Asian corporations particularly, is that they're very risk averse. They're really very safe. Being corporate friendly is kind of synonymous with being very dull and very sterile and etc. So am I wrong to kind of presume that? Do you have any examples that can just shut me up and prove me wrong?
Well, to be honest, we've got a couple of projects that that I would be happy to share, like just briefly touch on, right? Just going back to the answer, I think to really answer that question, I think every campaign you do is and at some point of time an A/B test, right? You launch a campaign, you write certain messages, you put certain messages down, you test certain images. At the end of the day, you're putting it out, and you're measuring the data, and then from that data, you're pivoting, right? This word doesn't work. This message works. This image works. This image doesn't work. This graphic doesn't work. And then you're kind of taking that information back. You're coming out with an entire new campaign, and then you're reloading it up again, which is why we've got loading periods, which is why we've got campaign phases, right? And I think at the end of the day, it just is a matter of that as well, going into a rule-breaking campaign, putting it out there, getting the data, getting useful data. If the format allows you to get more data, you can make more, better decisions, and then you can come up with another either rule-breaking idea, or you could come back, to falling back on the usual. So at the end of the day, it's every campaign is a test. Like it's the metrics that you're looking at, right? And it's the data that tells you what you want.
So that's why, like Caspar, very 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 clever, because you break the rules, but you kind of have the parameters where, okay, hang on, we'll do a test. So let's try it out, and these are the parameters, and this is what the data is going to tell us. Blah 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 blah. So again, it's going back to being creative and how you want to manage. Again, I have a damn big prejudice against the corporates because I always see them as super safe. Give me the ROI, give me the ROM, tell me that it's going to work. Have you done this before? It's the same line, isn't it? Tell me that you've done this before. Who in my industry has done this before? But being creative means you try new things, isn't it? You try something that is different, but you do it in a clever way, okay, let's do something different, but let's kind of manage the risk this way and do it this way, so that then once we get the data, then we can launch it in a much bigger way. That is genius.
Absolutely. I think this is the time where I take the side of my clients and I tell you that, they actually are open to doing rule-breaking ideas, and I think we have a couple of images as well, which I'll just briefly touch on them, but really,
sure. Which one do you want to talk about?
We can go through just them briefly, like
all right,
just
let's get the visuals up.
While we're that, we're really lucky, right, to work with with lots of clients. Like we've done, for example, a basking music video, or we've made an ad out of a basker's music video and street interview, for
which one is that
sustainability. That's I think, is it slide number 1? There we go.
All right, cool.
So it's using baskers to tell stories, to tell stories about sustainability, and again, it's a different approach. It's using the idea of storytelling, and using the value of like, being sustainable and using that to actually drive, digital banking. So again, right, the
Oh my God,
objective here is digital
serious?
banking. Yeah, but we're using the storytelling of buskers and how they practice sustainability. So
So
again,
what?
it's
You
using,
you just the basket got QR code and they digitally pay the tip or what?
in a sense, that's the activation. But the ad
Okay.
is centered on sustainability. So again, it's going many different routes, right? Like merging different stories and different value angles and value
Mm,
propositions
mm,
to
mm.
create, a whole different campaign. That would be the first. We've done campaigns out of basking music videos with, that and documentaries that talk about sustainability. We've done, you know XR fitness campaigns. I think that's the next one. There we go.
Okay, let's go to the
Yeah.
next slide.
So
This is brilliant.
we is that the next
You,
one?
you know, I mean,
It's
I'm hoping you guys have this on YouTube because these things tend to go viral whenever you have these busking kind of social experiments. They tend to go viral.
they
All right,
do
tell us
they
tell us
do.
about this Active Singapore.
Well, this was XR, and creating interactive video
Okay,
for
for
fitness,
the non-creatives out
for
there,
health
I'm
and
hoping there
fitness.
are some that want to be inspired today. Tell us what is XR.
Extended reality. That's what XR
Extended
is.
reality. Okay, cool,
Extended
cool, cool.
reality. So again, trying to merge storytelling with technology, again using technology as a tool, and the subject matter is health and fitness, because health and fitness is a big thing, right? Health and fitness
Hmm.
is a really big thing. It's an important thing. So we use this, to drive a government campaign. So we want to teach people a little bit more about fitness. We want to teach people a little bit more about movement, and doing the right things and doing the right exercises. So we combining XR, and interactive technology to create, video content that is centered on educating. Again, it's all about education, but
Hmm.
how do we change the format? And this is an example of changing the format. I think the next one will be really something that interests you. The next one is actually for an Air Force enrollment campaign, an Air Force enrollment campaign that we ran on a metaverse. I think that's pretty cool. Um,
Okay,
so here
we
we
are
go.
now in the metaverse. The word has
That's
come
right.
out.
The
Okay, it took us
metaverse.
21 minutes for the word metaverse to come out.
Took a
Okay, here we
while,
go.
took a while, but we got there. We got there. So the funny thing, they wanted to do a virtual event, right? The key metric was, okay, we're gonna launch this in 3 months, and at the end of it, they want 20 to 30,000 users or active users, interested leads, right, to be able to be on this platform. So we
Okay,
came back. We came back with a proposal, and we said, let's do something on the metaverse, right? Let's have it
right.
interactive, and we don't just want people to just visit this like any HR campaign or any open house. We want
Yeah,
people to actually get a chance to be a Top Gun pilot or to be a
yeah,
pilot.
yeah.
They've got their call signs, they can take a photo on avatars, they can be their own pilot, and they can play games, and they can look at, the aircraft, and they can, take part in virtual joyrides. And we wanted
Okay,
that, right?
I'm gonna be a bit of a noob and say,
Yeah.
was your call sign Ghost?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Well, that would be a very good call sign, actually. I'm good. I I won't be surprised if I was given that call sign as well. Yeah.
All right,
So
my apologies again. I
no
pulled it
worries.
off
I
quite.
know you had to get
All
it
right,
off the system, and that's fine.
I
Well,
need to get it
yeah.
out of my system, man. Okay,
we, well,
but
we
this
did
is
get.
cool. This is cool. I mean, I've been hearing with a lot from the metaverse guys, and the biggest challenge is server space capacity. So
Absolutely.
how many people were able to log in at the same time for this campaign?
Well, I don't have actual day numbers. What I do
Mm.
is I have total numbers that this
All
whole
right, all
campaign,
right, cool, cool, cool.
right? So they were targeting about 20 to 30,000 people. We actually hit, and these were the actual numbers, 99,850
So
people.
people logging into the metaverse.
That's right. And these are unique
Wow.
users, right? And in terms of returning users, we had almost about 60,000
Over how long?
over a period of about 2 weeks,
That is damn short. That
which
is
is which is really
that's just
short, but it's really successful as well.
cool, cool.
Yeah, this was one of the most rule breaking projects we ever done. I mean, we literally sat down
For the government.
yeah, we sat down with them, and but they were great. They were really open to the idea, and this is an example of how taking that step further and doing things a little bit different can actually have an
Mhm,
impact on your brand.
mhm.
So yeah, it wasn't just a metaverse. We were doing a lot of virtual events that were in the fringe with this. We were doing a lot of we were supposed to do just explainer videos, which ended up being action films, action documentaries.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we took a step, we decided to break a little bit of the rules and do things a little bit different and go into a little bit in depth, right? Instead of doing just traditional department videos, we decided to do action films so that we couldn't just show the departments. We want to inspire people to be pilots as well, hopefully.
I mean, when you said you love films, you weren't kidding, were you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If I got a chance to make a film of an ad, I would do that. I mean,
I think you put your material on YouTube.
it is. It's, I mean, this
Right.
is out on YouTube. So without spending too much time, I mean,
Go
yeah,
into YouTube, type in Rawspark. We should be able to watch all these awesome ads that
absolutely.
you guys have done. I mean, when you're talking about this, and we're trying to link 80s movies, Total
Yeah.
Recall just came to mind.
Right.
I recall Total Recall. Okay, there you
Love
go.
that film.
And that was essentially a metaverse kind of concept where people went on holiday, right?
It is. It
Virtually,
actually
and
is.
it's so immersive that you can't even recall whether it's real or what is real and what's not. I'm gonna have
No,
to
absolutely.
stop saying recall, but okay, cool, man. This is brilliant. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot more. I could go into more detail. I think the next one's another metaverse project that we did. Take Back the Nights. This was one of the first few metaverse music festivals that we did. Right. The idea was, a little bit of a backstory. We started off with a live stream. That went out as a means to be able to raise funds for musicians and arts and entertainment industry professionals who at that time were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We launched a live stream. We got 35,000 people, and the idea was to be able to convert them into donors. Well, in terms of donations, we only got $30 as a live stream, so that didn't work at all. So I think this, so we pivoted. At the end of the day, we decided to pivot. We decided, you know what? Let's do a game. Let's bring a music festival platform into a game, and let's turn it into an entirely different world. So this is what we did. We created an entire world, and it's a virtual world. It exists in the metaverse. We had the musicians perform in motion capture, and we created their avatars, and they perform live on the stage. And people could essentially log on for free, WASD mouse bar, just like a Counter-Strike game or any game simulation, and then just travel from place to place, from stage to stage, enjoy the music that they like, go up to a shop, buy merch, buy drinks, buy food, and have it delivered to their home. Right? We created a whole game of activities. Physical merch. That's right. They could buy physical merch in the metaverse by actually navigating around. So we created that, and it wasn't just that. We created an entire world, right? We gave these people an alien species. So you would take a form of an avatar as a species, and you'd go into this world, and you couldn't just walk. You could even fly. You could even fly. There'll be floating cities. Flying whales ended up in this video as well. In this game simulation, and the idea was that the story that we were trying to tell was that even in the pandemic, you can always find light. You can always find home, and as long as you're creative, you can always be open-minded. You can always think. You can think of ways to get back home. And that was the story that we were communicating again to the metaverse. So I think this is an example of how we can utilize the metaverse not just as a means to just have consumer engagement, but also tell a story.
So how many people did you guys get into the metaverse, into the music festival metaverse?
Well, the original one got about 35,000 on the live stream as a whole, right? This one had 3,000 people a day at the same time.
Wow,
yeah, this was yeah.
That is big. That is awesome. Because I'm hearing very low numbers from some of the ones that I've heard from. We're talking about double digit, and if you can have 3,000 logging in, I would assume pretty much at the same time. That is good. That is good numbers, man. And I can't help but notice. Sorry. Yes, Caspar. Go ahead.
Go. Okay. Well, just mind you, this is a Web 2 based metaverse platform.
Okay.
So we haven't arrived at Web 3. At that time, we didn't host this on Decentraland or Sandbox. So this is. Okay,
Manisa is going to strangle me for asking this question because we're not supposed to go deep into the tech, but explain the difference between the Web 2.0 and Web 3.0 metaverse very quickly.
Well, a Web 2 in this case, like in Take Back the Nights, will be hosted on a web platform, like as you would on Chrome, right? right?
Mm-hmm.
We worked with a server. We worked with AWS to be able to put it up. This does not exist on a Web3 platform. So a Web3 platform would be, for example, something that takes place in a current decentralized a Metaverse
Server.
web server, which would in this case would be Decentraland. An example would be Decentraland or Sandbox. So this doesn't take place in Sandbox. This is something we created on Unreal Engine and hosted ourselves on AWS. So
No practical difference as far as the user is concerned. This is
no,
more on
no,
the back end. Okay,
exactly.
get it,
Yes,
get it.
yeah.
I just wanted to comment that the logo is reminiscent of the Rebels logo from Star Wars. So I'm seeing like Star Wars reference big time
Influence.
here.
No surprise who came up with that logo. Also, if you look at it, like the stage, just one cool thing. The stage is designed like this, and it's called, and the stage is called the Beacon. So
All
the
right,
reason why we came up with that is because we were inspired by the idea of a compass. That at the end of the day, if you
all
feel lost,
right,
you can always look to true north,
all right, all
right?
right.
So a
Okay.
beacon, it's also a symbol for home. So that design kind of came up with that triangular shape that becomes a lot of the design element and the motif as you speak and as you see in the entire.
Okay.
So again, creative, imaginative thinking and how it kind of bleeds into design.
I mean, I'm just my mind is blown right now, left, right. So the because this is just brilliant stuff, and
I'm
and,
flattered.
and
Thank you.
I mean, this is I'm so grateful for having you on our show, and I
Likewise.
hope the audience is loving this as well. But I really need to know, is it all coming from your brain? Because this is a lot for one brain to conjure. How does Rawspark work? Is it a democracy or is it a dictatorship?
I cannot do things alone.
All right.
I'm very blessed to have a very very strong creative team as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I can never do this alone. I think I'm very blessed to have a creative team. You're all amazing people back home in Rawspark fam. You guys are
Hey.
amazing. Yeah, these guys come from many different backgrounds. We've got guys that come from film. We've got a
Mm.
we've got a we've got great cinematographers. We've got great editors. We've got great designers who are also artists on the side. We've got music
Mm.
and sound designers and strategists who are also music sound engineers and even artists in music and musicians in real life as well. And it's great because really that is what creativity is all about, right? Like at
That's
the
the
end of the day,
diversity that you
it's
need.
diversity, exactly. It's
Yeah.
diversity. And it doesn't matter whether you're a musician, you're a cinematographer, you're a designer, you're an animator. At the end of the day, what's most important is that if you can tell a story, that's great. And you tell a story through your language. If your language is film, tell your story through language. Tell your story
Mm.
to film. If your language is music, you can tell that same story through music. And
All
yeah,
right.
and going back again to Rawspark, it's an amazing team. I'm so blessed to have
Cool,
and to be
cool, cool.
surrounded by such talented people. So yeah,
I'm gonna press on with the next slide because I'm looking forward to see more awesome stuff and
right,
tell us what this is about.
right. This is a campaign we did with Revolut. So Revolut is a fintech company. They launched in
Mm-hmm.
2019 in Singapore. They originated from the UK. Now, in contrast to the very first project that we saw, that was from DBS Bank, right? So that was going with using a sustainable value, selling the idea of a sustainable value and how, supporting a brand could support a sustainable value. This was different. This goes by culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, what we did was we basically profiled three different tribes, that exist, right? So we have a student, we have a art student, for example, we have socializers, and we have travelers, right? And we basically showed their lifestyle and how they can benefit from a financial technology solution like Revolut. So that
All
was
right.
basically
Cool.
it. It's a very user style. It goes with culture, but nothing too radical at the stage. But
Mm-hmm.
we made it work because we got musicians, right? Who as you can see, we've got Tabit Nauza, we've got Shari Sleek, who are musicians who are very popular musicians, but they represent a certain tribe,
All right. All
in
right.
the in so again, this is working with again different people of different mediums, and the kind of communities that they have, and kind of trying to bring them into creating a very culture vibe advertisement, to market
Okay.
a financial solution. So there you
Cool,
have it.
cool,
Yeah.
cool. All right. Yeah. We have a couple more, I think.
Um,
Let's have a look. See. All
Without
right.
going into too much detail, HR campaign actually, as much as it is, it's actually a HR campaign for Marina Bay Sands, and yeah. But instead of going the original route, we did storytelling documentaries, for example.
Okay. Cool. And
So
we
again,
got one more. Yeah.
storytelling, and
Yeah. Back to storytelling. Lunar New Year.
oh, this was interesting. This was interesting. You know how we always talk about billboards and out of door.
Hmm.
So we were thinking, what if we do an ad with projection mapping?
Nice. Nice.
Chinese New Year
Okay.
campaign. So again, using different mediums to tell a different story, right? Yeah, and using different formats.
So this was what, projected against a building or what? A billboard?
Projected in the insides of the building, actually,
Okay.
the interior. So again, a different way of executing. This was for a Chinese New Year campaign. Yeah, those are some of the ideas that we have. Again, really, it's all about trying to change the format, trying to change the channels, and then trying to tell the story differently. At the end of the day, nothing changes a story, right? A story is a story. It comes from the person. But how you tell it, changes the way and the perspective at which you look at the story.
I mean, this is where the classic rules of storytelling kind of still hold true. So while we put the session as rewriting the rules, I'm just wondering, is there any new story to be told from your point of view?
Well, I could create one, right?
Mm.
I've always wanted to be a filmmaker anyway, so.
No. Is this going to be the start of a new career for Caspar Francis? From today onwards, I'm going to get in trouble with Rawspark shareholders, man.
Well, look, to be honest, I mean, at the end of the day, all creators are storytellers. All creators are all storytellers. And you could tell your own, and you could tell anybody else's story. The most important thing is that when you're rule breaking, the most important thing, and every brand owner would agree with me, or every brand strategist would agree with me, is to always be authentic, right?
Sorry, be what?
Be authentic.
Authentic. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think that's necessary in every brand, right? Like even consumers. I mean, consumers, they always look for authenticity of a brand. And at the end of the day, you can tell the story however you want with whatever rule-breaking ideas you have, as long as you're authentic to the story and to its values. And that's the most important. I would say.
Let me try and recall. The first rule that we are rewriting is that get an outsider's point of view. That was the first one, right?
More or less.
Yeah. Bring an outsider into the fray so that they can either kickstart the process or contribute to the process.
It, right? At the end of the day, it's perception. Yeah,
or perceive it. Second, you were talking about do a little bit of a mashup. Always build up worlds, create your own new worlds, bring different worlds together. All right. And then the third rule that we're rewriting is that it's not really rewriting. How do you rewrite be authentic? Because be authentic has always been around, but what would be the new take of being authentic?
I would say it's be yourself.
Be yourself.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it goes down to authenticity of your own story, right? A story is always original from you, and at the end of the day, how you tell it can be different, right? And I think I would say it also goes back to like inspiration. Like you can always be inspired by anything and anything you love. And I think using what you love, the medium that you love, or the tools that you love, to be able to tell your story, is another way of being creative, really.
Okay, all right. So yeah, look at different tools or etc. Mediums, world tools. Okay, all right. I'm not sure whether this is part of the first rule or second rule. I think we'll
lost track of rules.
yeah, because we're rewriting all the rules, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna push you a little bit here and get you to talk a little bit about any particular instance that any of your campaigns that really crashed and burned.
Wow. I would say
to the audience, this one Caspar had no idea this question was coming. So let's hear where we go from here.
Well, this is what I think, right? I think in every campaign we've done, we've come up with a bad idea at some point in time, right?
All right.
Whether be and this usually happens a lot in the pitch phase, like
Okay.
even
Okay.
before the pitch phase, like we've come up with bad ideas. But here's a perspective that I have for everybody, right? There are no good ideas. There are only bad ideas, and in advertising, the client picks the best bad idea.
Okay, you got to elaborate that, man, because that is
All right.
definitely rewriting the rules.
Yeah.
What is
So
the best bad idea?
so
What the
this is
heck does
what I
that
tell
mean?
this is what I tell a lot of my creative teams, right? When we're coming out with campaigns. Right. The truth is when you're coming out with a campaign, you're always working against three deliverables, already three pillars, right? That you're going to be tested on. And everybody knows this, right? The first is definitely how much can we do it for? Cost.
Yes,
Right?
that's the
That's a
first
big
question.
thing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, right? Because at the end of the day, companies are always looking at their bottom line. And as an agency, we're always looking at our bottom line, right? Even creative studios, production houses, we're always looking at how much do we really need to spend on this idea? How much do we need to spend to deliver it, right? So we're looking at cost. What is the investment, right? To put into an idea. That's the first thing. Now the second you're looking at is the return on the investment. When you put money in that, you always want to make sure that that ad converts somehow,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Most of the time it's leads, other times it's conversions, and then other times it's eyeballs. But most of the time it's always conversions, it's always leads. And these are the things that advertising dollars always have to convert into, right? ROI. How much am I gonna get? Right? The third thing they're gonna go and get, can it be measured? Right? When I put something out, can I measure the data that's gonna come back? How many impressions am I making? Are people dropping on the ad because there's something that I'm looking at that I want to drop off and I don't want to watch it again, right? Am I looking at the ad, and how many of people are looking at the ad are actually clicking on the ad and then going into the website and being a follower, subscribing, being a subscriber, or actually buying something? So that's another third thing, right? And of course, the fourth is, how good is the team? How accountable is the team? How great is the idea? You're always working on these four pillars, and at the end of the day, you're never able to satisfy all 4 points or all 5 at 100%, right? You're going to be better at something, and you're going to lack at something. And as long as you do that, every campaign is not the best, right?
Okay.
You're missing out. There are pros and cons. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that the idea that you come up with is able to satisfy most 4 out of the 5, 3 out of 5, or 5 out of 5, but with a little bit less of this, a little bit more of that, you want to be able to satisfy that. So what I always tell people is, you know what? Every idea is bad. Just go with the best bet one. Because at the end of the day, as long as you satisfy most of the values and you get what the client needs and you're able to solve that problem, you're fine.
Okay, I'm going to reframe this question because I'm still a little bit unsatisfied with the answer because you kind of dodged the question, dude. So,
Right.
What was the best learning experience that you've had from any campaign or any activity that you've done where
Right.
it may not have reached the heights of whatever the target that you guys were going for, but you learned the most out of it?
Right. Sorry, could you repeat that question again? Just so
anything that
Yeah.
whether it's Rawspark or yourself that you've done that kind of taught you the biggest lesson that was worth making that massive mistake because it taught you such an important lesson that you're holding true until today.
Right. Well, the biggest lesson I've learned is always serve the problem and serve the need.
So are you saying that you've went into any particular campaign where you didn't solve the problem at all?
Oh, definitely.
All right.
I think definitely. I mean, I think this would be in my way younger days when I was a suit or a junior suit, in one of my agency days. I've done campaigns that have got no traction, definitely, or at least have worked on assumptions like we thought that we could work, but it's not come back with the impact that we want. And I think the learning lesson for that is really data is really insights is one of the most important things. So
data and insights,
right? Like it's not just gathering data. Gathering data is one thing, but being able to read that data, turn it into valuable insights, and then turn that into learning and action. I think that's one of the most important things.
All right. I love the
Yeah.
answer. I love the answer because essentially what you're telling people is that first and foremost, don't be embarrassed with your mistakes. They happen.
Exactly.
And secondly, when you assume things and where you're into maybe vanity matrices, for example,
Yeah.
and you end up running a short sendiri campaign
Yeah.
where you're kind of into your own self,
Yeah.
and when everything crashes and burns, it teaches you to stop doing that. Look at the data, look at
Exactly.
the insights, do small
Exactly.
experiments, like you said just now. So
Yeah.
contain the risk. So I'm sure that came out of from the very crash and burn experience that you had before. So you start looking at small experiments, which you can do a lot better now with technology. All right.
Absolutely.
So that
Yeah.
goes into one of our rules as well, rewriting the rules. A/B testing, A/B test to death. I guess that would
Yeah.
be a big takeout for today. All right. Okay. Cool. Tell us a little bit about what's coming next.
What's coming next?
Yeah, without sharing your whole entire business plan. I mean, Rawspark, I'm
Right.
sure you got some massive secret sauce that you don't want to share with everybody. But tell us a little bit of a sneak peek.
Right.
What's the next big thing, perhaps, or the next
Wow.
awesome, brilliant thing that we could look forward to?
See, some of them are under like
I know,
NDAs,
I
or we
know.
still call
NDA,
them
right? Okay,
NDAs,
okay.
right? But
Yeah, yeah,
but 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 I'll try to give you a hint, okay?
yeah.
Now, we've got stuff that's gonna end up in Web3
Okay,
and the Metaverse.
cool.
So
Okay.
I can tell you that.
Hmm.
We've got
Well, you've done
something
that before. You've done that already. So that's
we
kind
have.
of business as usual now for you. So
More or less.
so yeah.
I would say it's still business as usual, but being the rule breakers we are, we kind of want to, make things a little bit, different, right?
Okay.
So we've
Right.
got we've got something we've got something in our
So
pockets
more
at the moment.
metaverse projects coming. That'll be
More
brilliant.
metaverse, more NFT.
Okay. Okay. NFTs as
Definitely,
well.
yeah, a little bit about that.
Mhm. But
In the
isn't okay? I'm just gonna chip in on that one.
Yeah.
The hype has kind of died down a little bit. So what's your secret formula to kind of why are you still into NFTs? What's happening in the NFT world?
Well, it really depends. I mean, at the end of the day, hypes die, and what we're trying to do is something it is based on NFTs, right? Again,
Okay.
it's looking at the product as a medium, not so much the
Okay. Back to
actual
that.
value, right?
Yes. Yes.
So NFTs are the medium, but I'm not telling you the story.
All right. There you go. We're back
Make
to
sense?
that.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
I won't tell you anything more, right?
Yes. Fair enough. Fair point. Fair point.
Okay.
Okay. So anything else that
Definitely
we
that.
can look forward to? Yeah.
You might see an office abroad. That's in the
All right.
pipeline. Yeah, you might see
Okay.
a couple more offices abroad. So again, without telling you too much, work in silence and then
Yeah.
let
But
let the
dude, come
rest
to
do it.
Malaysia, dude. You got tons of friends and family here, so I'm sure.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah. You'd be more than
We
welcome
do.
to kind of shake up the Malaysian scene.
We will. We've done a couple of projects, in Malaysia
All right.
for
That's
Malaysian
nice.
clients
That's
as
nice.
well. We've got a couple of stuff coming up. I don't know if this is the best time to drop, a little bit of an announcement as well of what we're doing with you guys as well. It sounds
Yeah,
exciting.
for sure. Uh, yeah, I mean, we're 48 minutes in, and I think is quite nice for us to kind of announce that Caspar is definitely going to be with us at Turbocharge Live 2022. Hey, so Rawspark, being one of our partners, will be pushing for Turbocharge Live in the Singapore market. So followers of Rawspark and Caspar, yeah, quickly take a screenshot of this promo code. All right, there you go. And we'll be lining up something awesome with Caspar in the panel session. And then we'll see what we have. Nothing's planned yet though, so it's going to be a massive surprise for everybody. We're not even going to be able to give any hints right now because everything is still in a working pipeline. But thank you so much, Rawspark, for coming on board. We're right chuffed. This is super brilliant. But we've got another 10 minutes. I want to see whether we have any questions from the audience and Whether anybody is keen to ask Caspar those groundbreaking questions. Manisa, do we have anything? Okay, not yet, but that's okay. All right. So one of the things that we want to kind of touch on a little bit in terms of because you just mentioned that you have some projects in Malaysia as well. Ooh, that is one long question. Okay, that's not a question. That is a promo for Turbocharge Live. All right,
Oh,
it's
very
blocking
nice.
both our
Okay.
faces. Okay. Okay, I told you this was live, right? So there you go. That's just proof. But let me just touch a little bit based on your experience working with Singapore clients and Malaysian clients. I don't want to get the whole Malaysia Singapore thing started up again, but maybe tell us a little bit whether there was what were the similarities and differences
Similarities. Wow.
if there is any.
Not much actually. Really, at the end,
Okay.
yeah, really, not much. And I mean
Not
that
much difference, but that means there's
not much.
lots of similarities.
Uh, well, I would say, I mean, you know, I think if I were to say anything similar, it's that I'm really thankful that they're really open to really rule breaking ideas or to testing.
Okay, okay.
You know, that's what I would have to say. I don't think there are any I don't think there are any differences. Whether it's in culture or whether it's in work culture or whether it's in approach. At the end of the day, the objectives are pretty much the same, and the problems that we're out there is we're really out there to really solve really similar problems and yeah.
Okay. All right.
you
Cool,
know
cool, cool. I believe we have one question. Let's flash it up.
oh
Manisa, is XR VR here to stay? What can we do to reduce people's resistance towards a VR XR product? So, has there been
right.
resistance?
Well, okay. So to be honest, XR. Okay, just to solve a little bit of terms, right? So XR is the broad term. XR is called
Mm,
extended reality, right? And
mm.
it's a big, broad term that encompasses VR, AR, and mixed reality.
What's
Okay,
that?
so
The
that's
last
what
one?
XR
Mixed.
is. Mixed reality.
All
So
right, all
mixed
right.
mixed reality is a lot. It's a lot with combining whatever is in the physical world with the meta world or with the digital world,
Mm,
right? That's
mm.
your mixed reality. Virtual
Like
reality.
phygital, this word is coming out right now.
Yeah,
Phygital plus
physical is kind of
digital.
like the new word, right? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
new buzzword, and that's big.
yeah.
You've got VR, virtual reality, which of course turning or basically putting a 360 world or a meta world, right, into the lens of the consumer, which they can
Yep,
access via goggles or any form of
yep,
medium, and that's VR, right?
yep.
And of course we have AR, right? AR is augmented reality, which
Mm,
exists in a lot in, for example, like Pokemon Go, like in Instagram.
yep,
Instagram,
yep,
when you
yep.
run a filter that maps your
Snapchat.
face and yeah, Snapchat, right?
Yep.
So VR and XR are definitely here to stay. You talk about XR is here to stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
What medium it takes it really depends on the consumer. Now, if I were to talk about AR is quite a big thing, and it's quite a common thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got clients from all industries that are trying to use AR, and trying to put it into a lot of their campaigns. They're trying to either run it as filters, they're trying to either run it as content, they're trying to run forms of storytelling, bits of graphic representations in a physical world. They're trying to do that. And AR is the most receptive, I would say,
Yeah,
right?
because the device is normally very simple. Your
Yeah,
phone, your laptop, things like that. Okay.
yeah.
Was there any before we go to Sarah's question? Is there any resistance at all?
There is lesser resistance to AR than there is to VR,
All
and
right,
the
all
reason
right.
being, is
Device
because
costs.
device, right?
Yep.
It's hard to put everything on a device, and at the end of the day, it's up to the consumers. Everybody has a mobile phone, but not everybody has a VR goggle, right?
Mm, mm, mm.
And not every VR goggle is the cost that everyone can afford or anyone
Yep.
would want to
Yep.
afford,
Yep.
right? So at the end of the
So
day, XR is here to stay. VR a little bit less receptive. AR is a little bit more receptive. But at the end of the day, what makes sense, right? Is I will tell you two things. That's in the storytelling, the story you're trying to tell, and the application of that story. So where we see VR really take place is a lot of training. So a lot of training
Yeah,
videos,
yeah.
they like to use VR. We've done a lot of that, right? A lot of interactive videos, right? Things that you can put a goggle on. And usually VR, in our experience, it pairs with an on-ground experience because it's a little bit easier to deploy,
Okay,
right?
all right.
What we
I,
always try to do is we try to go with the AR route.
I would
Yeah.
imagine economies of scale once it kicks in. I mean, just like the smartphone, and then I remember phones used to be less than 1,000 ringgit, and now you don't buy anything less than 1,000. It's a 2,000 plus,
Yeah.
and the price point just goes up, and then it
Yeah.
becomes mainstream.
Yeah.
I would imagine VR goggles will be very similar.
Yeah.
Once the application is everywhere, and then it becomes just as like a smartphone. You gotta have it in your house, at least one or something like that, just like a smart TV,
Absolutely.
etc. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go to Sarah's question. Creativity is
Sure.
about the idea. What is the process of combining the ideas for creating those masterpieces?
Right.
The questions
What
are coming
is-
in fast, man. So let's get them over with quick.
What is the process of combining the ideas for creating those masterpieces? Okay, so at Rawspark, we do this very, very common thing called design thinking. So I'm not too sure if you do it, but design thinking is a process where, if you search it up on Google, it basically allows you to come up with a single solution from multiple ideas. It allows you to test that idea. It allows you to make sure that that idea becomes feasible to be able to solve that product, to be able to solve that solution. So we use that. We use design thinking as a method, right? We use multiple design thinking. So if you want to talk about a textbook answer, that's one we do. If you talk about creative ideas, a lot of times also it just happens sporadic. I won't lie. Like, a lot of times you get more creative when you're least expected, right? So a lot of times what we do is we take the time to be able to incubate ideas, right? We incubate ideas a lot of the time. We try and borrow inspiration. We do exercises. We do try exercises to get creative inspiration. We try to use other films, other projects. We try to borrow inspiration from that. We try to put that in. So at the end of the day, design thinking is the way to distill them, right? So that I would say is one of the ideas. And at the end of the day, when you do that, you always keep the problem in mind. So as long as you're solving the problem and you're solving it from whatever angle, that's fine.
So that was what I was going to point out. When you say design thinking, because it's a bit of a buzzword and a jargon, it's not to say that you design things like a graphic designer or creative designer, but design thinking is about problem solving. So it goes back to that problem solving. And I love what you talked about, bringing different things together. It goes back to one of the rules that we've kind of distilled from today: mash up different tools, build worlds, bring in different influences, different perspectives. I think this is also kind of reminding me of that scene in Dead Poets Society where people stood up on the table for a different perspective. And as simple as that. All right, we got another question from Kimberly. What are you personally looking forward to explore and push further in the realm of creative marketing?
Wow, that is hard. To be honest, like one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is actually, I actually have a hidden passion and interest in actually doing things like theater and stage. So to be honest,
I'm really gonna get into trouble with your shoulders, right? It's like drawing out the different career options that Caspar has.
Well, I really love things stage, right? I love live stage. I love musical theater. I love theater as a whole, right? So to be honest, I think in advertising we've explored a lot of things in film, right? Advertising, for example, doing an ad is pretty much applying the film knowledge, right? Doing music is pretty much that. I really want to explore performance. You rarely hear of bands utilizing performance as the medium to market.
Yes.
And I really want to see that. And I think that's one thing we've not seen very often. But if we can, that would be amazing. So hope
another one from Natalie here. Kimberly, you better get your tickets as soon as Caspar announces his next theatre date. But from Natalie, do you have any practical tips for challenging our own ideas when we get stuck in a conventional way of thinking? This is brilliant. I love this question.
Right.
Go for it.
Wow. I think, if I were you, I don't have a right answer for this, but if I were you, what I would do is, I would pick what you like. Like, for example, let me give you an example. If I'm stuck ever in an idea about trying to come up with something, I would usually go to Netflix, see what I've watched in my last 20 minutes, right? And then pick ideas from there and go like, wow, this cooking show is actually quite good because it's done differently from other cooking shows. And I see what I can apply from that. So again, it's using your other inspirations, using things that you like.
All right.
But that are not
Back to one of the rules
like
again.
Idea,
Mash up different influences.
And see how you can twist. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a great book that's actually about advertising that I want to kind of talk. It's about thinking opposite. So the title is called Whatever You Do, Do the Opposite. So that's another way. Like, instead of thinking what would you do, another way of thinking it is what would you not do, and then how that works towards your client.
I'm gonna throw in something that you said just now. Start thinking about bad ideas, because you never know, right? Out of the bad ideas, the really stupid ideas that say this is so stupid, nobody's gonna like it, but this is never going to work, whatever, and then suddenly that is the genius idea because nobody thought of it at all. All right. We've got one more question, and this is from Manisa. Okay, how would you transform the creative management courses? Oh, this is so Cikgu Sekolah punya question. Okay, never mind.
Wow.
Let's try and answer this. How would you transform the creative management courses in universities so graduates are more ready for the new storytelling approaches?
Wow, this is tough. From like agency and consultant to like, now you want me to do into pedagogy and everything. I'm gonna be shocked, give an answer like that. Okay, you know what? Like, to be honest, I think practical knowledge. Like, instead of being in theory, like how do you teach being creative? Like, you can't, right? But what you can do is you offer projects. So definitely practical, right?
Yep.
Practical, and then working with people that they've not worked with. That's another way, so being able to do that to provide practical knowledge. And then the thing I would say is, allowing students the freedom to fail, and measuring that failure so that they can use that for their learning points.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, obviously we tend to get lots of CVs and portfolios, right? And it's always a nice story. Whereas I tend to ask questions about what was your biggest failure and what did you learn from it. So if universities actually encourage people to, part of the assessment is not what you achieve, but also what you learned from any failure. That would really teach them how to be creative.
It is a bit of a SpaceX approach, right? Like, in opposite to NASA, they didn't do scientific hypotheses and reports, right? They didn't do scientific measurements. They just build a rocket and just crash it as much as they can so that they could gather data to learn. I think that's the best way to really learn in creative management school. Like, get on a project, do a project, break it to shreds, and then take the data and then turn it into a thesis. That's the best way. And then run the project again in year 3. I don't know.
So
I could be shocked. I could be shocked.
Academics, don't cancel us. We're not asking your students to crash a rocket or whatever vehicle at all, but it's about learning from the mistakes and gathering the data and coming back better next time. That was a brilliant 1 hour, Caspar. Thank you so much, Jude, for coming on board. I think the questions were awesome and you answered them brilliantly. I can't stop grinning because the 1 hour just flew by. Rocketed by us, and we look forward to having you again at Turbocharge Live.
Amazing.
That will be brilliant in 7 to 8 October. A big shout out to Rawspark, our partner from Singapore, for Turbocharge Live, and to everyone watching. We've passed the 1 hour, we've passed our allotted time. Thank you so much for being with us today. And before we go, remember to get your tickets for Turbocharge Live 2022, and see you again next time.